sex should be reciprocal. It is not fair. It is not fucking fair for your pleasure to be pushed to the wayside while they hand you all these excuses for why they can't cater to your pleasure, why they don't want to cater to your pleasure, while you are still expected to cater to theirs. Like, if you're not compatible in that way, you're not compatible in that way.
Dude, where are you? Pick up your phone. I'm going to a summer party tonight, and you're obviously invited, so call me back. Okay, love you. Bye.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to Emotionally Online, the weekly summer party for spilling guts and sharing secrets, hosted by yours truly, the one and only Maddie Drosbeck. I did remember my intro this week. We're back at it, okay? I just have to get off my chest, though, that right now I do have watch me whip, watch me nay-nay stuck in my head. I don't know what the fuck happened. I think I saw something online about Sargento cheese, and my head just kept going, Sargento, because of the whatever. The song is stuck in my head and I can't get it out, and it's a real problem. So I just needed to lift that burden off of my chest and give it to you, because I could not bear to go through this alone. Anyways, how are we doing? How are we feeling? It's been a long, exhausting week, has it not? I, myself, have been trying to stay off social media a little bit, read more books, play more Mario Party, watch more Love Island, just generally do things that make me happy to take my mind off of the state of U.S. politics this week. And I hope that you've been doing the same, because yes, it's important to stay up to date and to keep yourself in the know, but it's also important to disconnect and to unplug and to let yourself enjoy happiness, okay? Because we can't let ourselves get hopeless, because there is so much work to be done. But this was a hard week. It was a shit week to be online consuming any type of content with, one of the world's shittiest people being sworn into the highest power in the US, and, the richest man in the world doing a Sig Heil on the world stage. These are not good things. These are really bad things that are extremely distressing. With everything going on, it's so easy to let the hopelessness consume you and to feel like, how do we get through the next 4 years? And that's a real feeling and a real worry, and I need you to know that I feel it too. But something that I keep trying to remind myself is just how many people are dedicating themselves to their communities, to enacting real change in their neighborhoods, in their cities. There are so many people that are committed and locked the fuck in to making this country a better place for everyone and not just the extremely wealthy. We are experiencing dark times right now, but I think it's important to focus on the sheer amount of love and community support and activism that's going on all around us all the time. So take your time offline to recoup and take care of yourself and do the things that you enjoy, but do not let hopelessness consume you, because we need you here to lock in and do the work, because it's going to be a long 4 years. So I hope that you guys took some time to relax and unwind and unplug this week of all weeks. The last time we were here chatting on this couch, we were under the impression that TikTok was leaving us in just a few short days. That, of course, is not what ended up happening. TikTok was gone for maybe 12 hours, and then it came back again. I kind of don't give a fuck. I have deleted TikTok off my phone. I'm not planning on going back there. If you see me post on TikTok, it's because it's a repost from my Instagram. There will be no TikTok content that exists, period. To all my friends who send me TikTok videos, it's a fruitless effort, okay? I won't see it. Text it to me if you need me to see it. The second it got banned for that 12 hours, I deleted it off my phone immediately, and now it's literally not available in the App Store anymore. So I'm totally free. I've been banned personally. Maddie Drosbeck, was banned from TikTok. So I'm just going to keep it that way. I was off TikTok for so long, and honestly, it was such a good thing for my mental health to be off of that application. So I am just personally keeping it that way. I'm enacting a TikTok ban of my own. The whole thing was just like the circus of it all, having it banned and having that message pop up on the screen being like, we are sure that President Trump is going to do something about this. And the next day it's like, oh, God bless Trump for reinstating TikTok. It's like, yeah, miss me with that. Gross. Just all of it, top to bottom, gross. I really, it is concerning what's happening right now across many different social media platforms, the billionaires that own them, and how tied they are politically to Donald Trump. It's distressing to me. There has to be a minimal amount of social media platforms in my life now. I think that's the conclusion I'm coming to, where I'm like, social media is my job. I also love social media content creation. It's so fun. There's so many amazing people on there. However, the like high level manipulation from the ultra wealthy and our political figures, I just can't be on every single social media platform anymore. I don't want to. Okay. I'll also be on Letterboxd, right? I'll also be on Letterboxd because they cannot control me. You can't get me to shut the fuck up about John Tucker Must Die. I need to let the people know you cannot censor me. So that's where you'll catch me. Just fucking, I don't know. I've got to just get off the apps that I don't need to be on. I don't need to be on TikTok, so I'm leaving it. And I feel really good about that. Not that I even have a choice. My new foster kitten is here, and she is adorable and extremely feral. Her name is Rock, Paper, Scissors. So cute. I've been calling her Rocky or RPS. Just because she sounds like super badass when I call her that. But she's extremely feral. She's been hiding from me behind my toilet since she got here 3 days ago. But slowly we're making a little bit of progress. She let me hold her last night. She didn't fight me when I was giving her her medicine, which that's like the hardest part about fostering and trying to socialize cats, is that often they're so little tiny baby. They were just rescued off the streets, so they're on all these like dewormers and other medications to help make sure that they are healthy and safe for Mango to be around. So that's why she's kept separate, for socialization reasons and for like health reasons. So but when I get the kittens and they're like scared of me and hissing at me and they hate me, and also I need to administer medication into their mouth every single day, so it is kind of a journey getting a kitten who's like fighting you tooth and nail to take medication. It's definitely a little bit stressful. But last night it was easy breeze. I didn't even have to wrap her up in a cocoon. Usually I have to wrap the kittens in a cocoon so that they can't fight me, and they're just like, in a little burrito. I didn't even have to do it last night. I was like, let's see if I could just get her to calm down. And I was petting her and she was super chill. She started purring. I was like, I feel like I could just give her the medicine like this. I gave it a go. She let it rock. She let me do it. So we're making a little bit of progress, but I walked in there this morning and she's immediately hissing at me. I was like, I thought we were buddies after last night, but that's okay. Rinse and repeat. We're just going to keep doing it. And she's going to leave here loving humans. She's going to leave here being a lover girl. That's what we do over here. Okay. We take kittens that are sick and scared and do not like people, and we make sure that they leave here liking people. This is the sweetheart factory over here. What can I frickin' say? I brought something up in a recent video of mine that I've been thinking about constantly, nonstop. And I continued to think about it today because I was listening to my friend Catherine's podcast, The Revelatorium Pod, which I absolutely love. If you like this show, I feel like you'll love Revelatorium. Revelatorium comes out once a month, and when I see that notification, when I open up my YouTube app and see Revelatorium pushed right to the top of my recommended, because absolutely it knows I want to see that, I get so fucking excited because the reflections and musings that Kath has on life just so often mimic and mirror the musings that I am also having. And I just kind of love that I have this friend across the country that I feel so deeply in alignment with, and that I'm having these reflections and thoughts. And then I listen to Kath's pod, and Kath is like going on a deep dive that feels so reminiscent of things that I'm also thinking about. And I'm like, oh, I just love it to be so synchronous with someone so smart and beautiful and wonderful. I just love it. So definitely go check out Revelatorium. If you have not checked it out already, but what I'm talking about is in my baby girl video, or maybe in last week's podcast, I don't know. Somewhere, somehow, I brought up the term fleeting flirting and how I myself would like to have a year full of fleeting flirting. And I have described this as just living a more flirtatious life, being more open to like the flirtatiousness of mundane social interactions and letting him exist in that moment and then leaving them there. You know, like not needing every sort of flirtatious, sensual, romantic moment to grow into this extravagant thing. And what I mean by that is like, I want to let myself indulge in how like fun it is to live flirtatiously, live romantically outside of the context of like romantic relationships or like dating. I just want to embody more of that energy in like a constant kind of way. And so this morning I was listening to Kath's most recent Revelatorium, and Kath was talking about this same exact thing, wanting to spend more time around romantics and just like living more romantically in general. Because it's not, obviously, you guys know this. We all know this here, Lover Girls Worldwide, okay? Living romantically is not something that is like exclusive to romantic relationships, but obviously so many people do reserve those kinds of actions and feelings and indulgences for their romantic partners and nothing else, which really I just think those people are deeply missing out on like the joys of life and just being a romantic person. But to me, the idea of living romantically and what that means for people who have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about right now, to me, it's a lot of just like acknowledging, appreciating, and honing in on the little things, the little details, finding ways to bring in more like wonder and fun and sweetness to your day-to-day life. So an example that Kath has brought up in her content before that I love, and something that she mentioned in this most recent podcast episode, was like abandoning like virtual party invite for handmade invitations. And instead of being like super meticulous in your planning of like, here's the date, here's the time, here's the RSVP, let me know if you're going to come or not going to come. You just like make handmade invitations and keep them with you over the course of like a month before the event. And every time you see someone or connect with someone that you want to invite, you just give them the invite and invite them. And I love that because it is just like a more fun and romantic and like whimsical way to experience you know, being a hostess or building community with people. It's a more thoughtful way to engage with others. And also it takes away like some of the social pressure that comes with hosting an event. And I don't know, it just makes it more of like, here is this like thoughtful gesture. Here is this like nice handmade invitation that I'm giving to you. I could have, you know, just shot you a text or threw this thing up on Partyful, but making you this handmade invitation is kind of just like a little bit sweeter. I'm not doing that because I need you to come or I think this is going to be like a more enticing way to get you to show up. I'm doing this because it is a way for me to indulge in my creative self, to make life a little bit more sweeter, a little bit more precious, a little bit more cinematic even. That's a word that Kath used in her podcast, which resonated with me a lot because I have always felt like one of the best ways that I can get myself to connect with like my own romanticism is to frame it inside my head as like a cinematic thing. I've always felt like I viewed my life through videos, and maybe that's just because I've just grown up recording life and capturing it in some way. I also remember being at theater camp. They'd always tell us to like look around at each other and take these like mental Polaroid pictures to like snap it and store it inside your head. And maybe there's something about that that has like really stuck with me throughout my life, paired with the fact that this is just what I do and it's like my passion. But I feel like so often I'll be like, I don't know, doing something throughout my day, and I'll just think to myself, like, what would be a more beautiful image right now? What is like the image that I want to remember? What is the thing that is going to make me feel like, oh, that's like a wonderful memory for me to have? And the example of like doing watercolor party invitations, DIY by hand versus a like virtual party invite, is like a great example of that. Like if you have the time to do it, obviously. Sometimes you need to send a text and it needs to be a quick thing and whatever. And if that's like the easiest way for you to initiate a community gathering that week, that month, then like for sure do that, you know? But if you have the time, if you have the space to allow yourself to go a more creative route, go a more romantic route, a more cinematic route, whatever it is, if you have the time to allow yourself to indulge that way, then I feel like you should, because it's kind of awesome. And I think it's sweet to know other people in that way as well. Like it's kind of vulnerable to do things like that and to be like, oh, I made you this thing. I made little invites for everyone to come to my party. Like it's kind of a vulnerable thing to show your creativity and like your attention to detail, your romanticism in that way, which is a beautiful thing. Like I love when my friends do things like that because it shows me more of them. The same way that when I do things like that for them and I, take the romantic route, they know a part of me more deeply in the aftermath of that. You know what I mean? It's just so much more fun to be in community with other romantics. I think it just makes every memory that much sweeter. The attention to detail and the little things is really like, you just can't underestimate the power of it, and like how these like little tiny attention to details can shift the way you experience a moment and the way you connect with other people through that moment. I also think there's something to be said here about how like social media and our collective phone addictions have made us less romantic. Let's talk about that. This is something I've thought about in my own life a lot, because I think that sometimes I will opt for scrolling and like spending time at the end of the day scrolling in place of doing other things that would make my life exponentially more enjoyable, that would leave me with better memories, better reflections, better, things to look back on at the end of the day. But instead I get sucked into scrolling on my phone, and half the time it feels like literally involuntary, and all of a sudden I've done it for 20 minutes and I'm like, oh my God, how'd I get here? What did I just do? I just wasted all this time scrolling on my phone, when I could have spent the last 20 minutes indulging in something that was, way more creative, way more romantic, way more whatever, just a better use of my time than scrolling. Even like at the end of the day, at night, when I am winding down and I do my skincare, I do my hair, I could make myself a cup of tea, light a candle, and go read 2 chapters of my book in my bed before calling it a night. I could do that, and I would enjoy doing that. It's a more like romantic way to live. It's more enjoyable. It's a better memory. It's more cinematic. All of it. It is a better choice. Is that the choice I end up making all the time? No. Some nights I, do my skincare, do my little hair thing, and I lay in bed and I scroll on my phone and I play 2048 for an ungodly amount of time, because yes, I'm still addicted to that godforsaken game. Sometimes those are the choices that I make, and I don't think it's like a all or nothing kind of thing, right? It's fine to scroll on your phone some nights before bed, but I just think that there's been like an overtaking of mind numbing activities like that like totally overrides the potential for romanticism in your life. And I just think it's making us all more depressed. So that sucks. That sucks, because that's definitely what's happening to me, which is why this year I'm trying to really be aware of my phone addiction and my reliance on my phone, and how I can, just spend more time pushing back against that, because it sucks and it is stealing my life from me. And I want to be aware of that when it's happening in the moment, Another thing that I've heard Kath talk about on Revelatorium is touch starvation, and how like touch starved we are as a, culture, because we have reserved so much of our intimacy of touch for our romantic partners. And I think it's a really interesting topic to dive into. And it's one that, like, when I speak about it, I feel like my words and my actions probably don't align, because I am a very not touchy-feely person. But it's not because I don't want to, or I feel some type of aversion to it. It honestly just, like, touch has never been a major part of any of my relationships. Touch wasn't like a big part of how we showed love in my family either. My mom is like a very not touchy-feely person. Like, I gave her a hug at a funeral once, and she was stiff as a board. Like, that woman just doesn't give hugs. She's gotten better in recent years. I feel like I have hugged her a few times recently. Like, when I leave, I'll give my mom a hug, fucking obviously. But there have been like times in life where, yeah, it seemed less natural. My dad is the opposite of that. My dad is like very affectionate, very touchy-feely. My dad was always the more affectionate one growing up. My mom showed her love through like gift giving and remembering things about us. And I think my dad probably showed his affection through like words of affirmation and physical touch. But for whatever reason, I think that I just ended up being someone where physical touch wasn't like a major part of my being. And I actually think that my friendships have been what has changed that for me over time, the older that I've gotten. Like, if you talk to my friends from high school, a lot of them might say that they thought that I like hated touch, or like I didn't want to be touched. And there was a period in my life where that was totally true. I don't think that's true anymore. And I think if you asked my New York friends if they thought I was like averse to touch, I don't think they would tell you that they thought that I was, or even knew that that used to be a part of me. But there was definitely an era of my life where I felt really uncomfortable touching people, or like would really dread the end of a function, because I knew that like hugs were coming, and I like kind of get stressed out about the idea of having to hug someone. I don't really feel that way anymore. Sometimes I do if it's like people I don't know, because I don't want to touch people I don't know. That is still true about me. Don't really like touching strangers. But if you're a friend, or someone that I'm becoming friends with, someone that I am like seeking intimacy with, seeking closeness with, I'm totally fine hugging and like enjoy physical touch with people in my life in that way. But it wasn't always true for me. And it does feel like sort of like an evolving moment of mine. But like in college, my like freshman, sophomore year of college specifically, when I was making all these new friends, this came up a lot, because I felt like physical touch was more present in some of their lives than it was in mine. And I would have friends that would come to my dorm and be like, oh, can we cuddle right now? Like, can we spoon? And the first time I had a friend say that to me, I was like, is that normal? Like I guess, like maybe. And I was sort of like, I don't know, I'd never experienced physical touch with friends in that way, but that became like a regular thing for my friends and I in college, where we just like come and we'd lay in bed and spoon and scroll on Vine or whatever the fuck else we were doing back then. And it was like really sweet to have friendships that were so like, oh, I need a cuddle right now, I need a hug, can I like come lay in your dorm with you, and we'll just scroll on our phones and talk and whatever. And it was kind of awesome. And I think that is like probably what started to change my perspective on physical touch and all of that. And, I still can't say I'm the touchiest person in the world, but I think I probably have like a normal relationship with physical touch now in friendships, or non-romantic relationships rather. But I have loved hearing other people's reflections on, you know, the importance of physical touch in their non-romantic relationships, in their platonic friendships, and how they are, you know, sort of rewiring their brains to allow more physical touch in their platonic friendships. And also this like sort of mixing and melding of the line between platonic and romantic, which I do think that like a lot of women are already doing with their friendships with other women. I think inherently a lot of female friendship is quite romantic and intimate. I don't know, to me that's been like one of if not my absolute favorite part of being a woman is like how easily and effortlessly I can connect intimately with other women. Like I feel like I can get into like these very intimate conversations with women the first time I meet them, and it feels very natural and flowing, and I feel like sometimes I'll like broach topics with women that I would never broach with a man the like first few times meeting. It would be something I'd have to ramp up to, right? But with women, I feel like I can just like rip it off and go head first in, and I just love the like intimacy of conversation I've been able to have with other women, and how like romantic those moments are inherently, how flirty those moments can be inherently, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna like date or hook up or make out. Or maybe it is. Maybe we do that. But it's not like, what am I trying to say? I guess to me it just feels more fluid. Like there's less of a line between like platonic and romantic, and it's more just like we're experiencing this like intimacy and closeness together, and like if we're friends, we're friends. If we're not, we're not. And it's more just like, I don't know, this beautiful in between space where we just get to express affection and admiration and our musings and reflections with each other without there being all of these like pre-established boundaries that we're not allowed to cross because we are just friends, you know? But like I said, I feel like a lot of these boundaries actually don't even exist in female friendships to begin with because of like the intimacy of connection that women have with other women. But this idea of like, oh, you don't cuddle, you're not going to spoon with your friends, those are your friends. It's like, well, why not? Why can't I spoon with my friends? Why not? Genuinely. And this goes for so many other things as well. Not just spooning, but you know, there's so many examples of that where it's like this thing, this idea that we're like, oh, we exclusively reserve that for this kind of person, this kind of partnership. When I actually think that like living in more of a, I don't know, a more fluid space between like what is something you do with platonic friends versus romantic friends, and like can you experience romance within platonic friendships? Yes you can. Yes you can, and I actually feel like we should be, because it just brings you closer together with people and it's a more intimate way to experience your relationships. Now I say all of this as someone that has no interest in having sex with someone that I'm not dating. So understand that my perspective comes from the context of like innocent touch that is romantic, or I'm also talking about like conversation topics, or like the amount with which you reveal yourself to another person, and if you have to reserve those moments for romantic partners versus platonic friendships. Personal boundaries obviously still exist. Like me not wanting to have casual sex is still like a total truth about myself, but I also do love the idea of experiencing heightened levels of romanticism in friendship and bringing in more like intimate touch, physical touch within friendships that are platonic, treating each other more romantically in, you know, the way that you care for each other, the way you plan for each other, the thoughtfulness, the like kinds of conversations you're having, all of these things. It's not just about physical touch, right? But hopefully what I'm saying making sense. Like the line between what is considered platonic and what is considered romantic, whether that is like physical touch, conversation topics, the amount of time we're pouring into something, the amount of thoughtfulness, like delicateness, just like the way we treat and show up for each other. I am a big fan of sort of throwing out how you think you should show up in those relationships and opting to show up romantically in all of them. You know? Because I think it's just a wonderful thing to be a romantic, to be so like 2 feet planted in your romanticism and to live life in that way. I don't know. I just think the extra thoughtfulness and romanticism that we pour into our romantic partnerships is actually something we should be pouring into our friendships as well. Like the same way you might invite your partner over at the end of the day and you've like cooked up a nice meal with them and you've lit a couple candles and like brought out the nice dishware and like your tablecloths and whatever. Like sometimes I'll think about that where like I've had people that I've dated come over here and I've set like my entire dinner party set up for just the 2 of us, like set the table, got everything all good, like pre-chopped ingredients, made it all like romantic and nice. And I'll do that with my friends too, but usually only when I'm like throwing a dinner party and having a lot of people over. But I'm like, why couldn't I just do that for one friend? Like if one of my friends came over and I set up the table all beautiful and just lived a little bit more romantically, indulged in a little bit of romance with this one friend of mine as we're going to like cook a dinner together. Why wouldn't I do that? I would. I literally fucking would. But it's like, why haven't I? The way that when a romantic partner comes over, when someone I'm interested in comes over, I'm like eager to impress them and to like romance them because I want to date them and I want to be intimate with them. But I also want to experience intimacy with my friendships in a different way, maybe. But why can't that thoughtfulness still exist? It can. And I think that it should. So that's my conclusion. But I was just loving listening to Revelatorium. I had so many good thoughts and reflections following this week's episode, as I feel like I do every time I listen to Revelatorium. Just like the wonder of romanticism, the power of female friendships, and how we all need to be touching each other more, I guess. Why not? All right, let's dive into these audience submissions. There's a crazy one in here, and I need to talk about it first because I have so much to say, and it's actually been eating me up since I read this in the submission box. So let's get in here. Hi, Maddie. This is a follow-up to my question you discussed about my boyfriend who does not want to go down on me. For reference, the first episode that we talked about this in was like 2 years ago. It was like literally March 2023. That we initially talked about this. We are now close to 2 years in a relationship. He still does not want to go down on me and says it's a sensory issue. Lately, I tried to raise the topic of fingering more often because all we ever do is have penetrative sex, and this makes it very difficult for me to orgasm. How it usually goes is, we'll have penetrative sex, and if I don't come during, I pleasure myself after while he just lies there, which is not how I want it to be for the rest of my life. So I raised the topic of fingering, even though I hated that I would have to constantly bring it up because he would never think to do it on his own. Last night he told me that he wouldn't like to finger me because it is so slippery and feels unhygienic. So it's a sensory problem as well now. It makes me feel like shit that he is obviously grossed out by my wetness. I don't know what to do. Do you have any thoughts? The thought to go my whole life without being cared for in that manner makes me so sad. Oh my God. When I tell you, my jaw was on the fucking floor. Because I remember this submission. I remember the first submission, and I remembered reading it and being quite generous in my initial assessment. In the initial message where they talk about the boyfriend not wanting to go down on them because of like a sensory thing, my initial reaction was to be like, we're all going to be comfortable with different things in the bedroom. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do sexually. However, you are more than entitled to say, well, this is really important to me and I really care about oral sex. I would feel that way. So this isn't going to work, right? I can have empathy for this hypothetical person who loves their partner so much but really struggles with like the sensory experience of giving oral. And I talked in that first time about how I would personally probably build up resentment over time if they expected me to go down on them but refused to go down on me. And what I said the first time is that I was off put. I didn't really like this undertone of them thinking that a woman's body was gross. They didn't outright say that in the first message. We're going to talk about what is said in this new message in a second. But in the first message, they didn't say that they outright thought that like a woman's body was gross, but they were basically saying that they didn't love doing oral. It was like a sensory thing for them that was just like uncomfortable, but that oral was more enjoyable for them when the woman was less wet. And when I heard that, I was like, that I don't like. I don't like this positioning of like, oh, a woman's body is gross. This like natural thing that's happening because her body is preparing her to have a more enjoyable experience, a more comfortable experience sexually. This is a bad thing that I find gross. I don't like the framing of that the same way I don't like when men say a damn thing about periods being gross. I think it is wrong for men to speak about women's bodies that way. I don't give a fuck if it's a sensory issue or not. And I said that in the first episode where I was like, you know, I'm going to give your boyfriend the hugest benefit of the doubt in that I'm going to assume that they love you. I'm going to assume that they care about your pleasure and finding a solution for this, and that this really genuinely is just like a sensory issue that they are working towards. There were people in the comments that were suggesting dental dams, other ways to help explore oral while mitigating the sensory issues at the same time. We had a nice conversation about it the first time, right? Seeing this submission in the inbox 2 years later broke my heart a little bit, because the solution there to that conflict you guys were having 2 years ago was to find a way to experience oral that was comfortable for the both of you. It's an uncomfortable conversation. It's a complicated conversation. But if we're giving your partner the benefit of the doubt, assuming that he cared so much about your pleasure but was really struggling with like the sensory experience of it all, the solution there would be to explore ways that it could be a pleasant experience for both of you. The solution there was not to just abandon oral altogether and not have it, despite the fact that it is very clearly important to you and your sexual satisfaction. Then reading this message, learning that there was no joint conclusion that was come to. He still is not going down on you. He is now saying he doesn't want to finger you. And now we have direct confirmation that there are nasty words being used to describe it. This is not a sensory issue. This is a misogyny issue. Oh boy. Oh boy. If this was a sensory issue, there would have been a joint conclusion that was come to, using dental dams, trying to figure out different ways to experiment to make the experience of oral more pleasant for the both of you. Your partner should give a fuck about your pleasure. Your partner should give a fuck about you experiencing orgasm. Your partner should want you to be lubricated, because that is how women can experience pleasure in the most comfortable way. Your partner should want that for you. And when confronted about that, when you go to your partner and you say, this is what I need for my pleasure, they look at you and tell you that they think you're gross and unhygienic, I'm going to lose the plot entirely. That is not how you speak to someone that you care about. That's not how you speak to a sexual partner. That's not how you speak to someone whose pleasure you give a fuck about. If vaginas are gross to you, if the natural lubrication of a vagina is gross to you, then maybe you don't want to have sex with women. Hello? It is wrong for a partner to body shame you for experiencing things that are natural and inherent to having your body. So let me get this straight. It's a sensory issue when he's fingering you or he's going down on you. Two things that prioritize your pleasure and not his. But magically the sensory issue goes away when he's sticking his dick in you. Like, I'm like sweating right now. This is like, you know that clip of Sneeko where he's like, going down on a woman is gay. This is what I feel like reading this right now. If it was a sensory issue, they would still give a fuck about your pleasure. If it was a sensory issue, they would find ways to provide pleasure to you that are also respectful of their own issues. The word unhygienic is pissing me off to the highest degree. I can't even fucking begin. That should have never been said to you. It is inappropriate. It is misogynistic. And the fact that you are having penetrative sex, and when you don't come during penetrative sex, you will pleasure yourself after while he just lies there. Oh boy, this is not reciprocal sex. It is unfair to you to be with someone who does not prioritize your pleasure, that is not committed to finding solutions that work for the both of you. It is not fair to you to be with someone who's going to body shame you or make you feel like you're gross or undesirable because your body is doing what your body is supposed to do. We can have grace for people who experience life in different ways than we do. I can have grace for someone who struggles with sensory issues and the way that sex interacts with those sensory issues. However, the solution to those things is not to put your hands up and say, well, I just can't do it, but I can have penetrative sex with you because that feels good for me. So I'm not going to do all that other shit for you because your body's gross. You shouldn't feel self-conscious. You shouldn't feel gross. You shouldn't feel any of those things. That is their own shit to deal with. I actually have no words left, no amount of time or space left in my brain for these misogynistic dudes who refuse to go down on their girlfriends because they think it's gross. What? I'm so tired of it. And I think that so often women will be understanding of this because obviously you don't have to do anything sexually that you don't want to do. But you are allowed to say, this is important to me. This is important to me. This is my line. This is what I need out of a partner sexually. And if we're not compatible in this way, we're not compatible in this way. Sex should be reciprocal. It is not fair. It is not fucking fair for your pleasure to be pushed to the wayside while they hand you all these excuses for why they can't cater to your pleasure, why they don't want to cater to your pleasure, while you are still expected to cater to theirs. Like, if you're not compatible in that way, you're not compatible in that way. Like, he doesn't get to demand penetrative sex and oral from you while giving you nothing in return. That is fucking stupid. And I think so often women are so accepting and understanding of these things, and we shouldn't be. And we should not be, because there's a fundamental incompatibility there. You do not value my pleasure, but you still expect me to value yours. Fuck off. Fuck off. I wish that they had done more to find a solution that worked for the both of you rather than just defaulting to penetration only sex for the last 2 years. I am violently put off by their lack of concern about your pleasure. To me, that is like as red a flag as a red flag can get. I personally would not want to be with someone who wouldn't go down on me. I wouldn't want to be with someone who wouldn't finger me. I wouldn't want to be with someone who talked about my body and the natural experiences in my body as being gross. And I wouldn't want to be with someone that didn't prioritize my pleasure. Even if they really do have sensory issues, they should still be able to prioritize your pleasure and find ways that work for both of you. Okay? That should have been a given. All of these things, all of these reasons would be a hard no for me. These are major incompatibilities if sex is important to you, and it's important to lots of us. These are major, not minor, major incompatibilities, in my opinion. Only you can decide if these are major or minor incompatibilities for you, but I just think it's unbelievable that it's 2 years. 2 years later, and this man still doesn't give a fuck about your pleasure or your orgasm. That is insane to me. That is not someone that I would want to be having sex with. Never mind having sex with forever. It makes total sense why the thought of going the rest of your life being cared for in this manner makes you feel sick to your stomach. It makes me feel sick to my stomach too. Sending you all the love in the entire fucking world. I really, really hope that you do whatever it is that you have to do to prioritize your pleasure and find yourself in a relationship with someone who also prioritizes your pleasure. Hello, Maddie. I am a fellow movie lover, and my opinions on the following matter may be extreme, but I believe others may agree with me and wanted to get your thoughts. The Brutalist, starring Adrian Brody, is but one of many films going for the Oscars this year, and it's recently been revealed that generative AI has been used to create some of the architecture in the film, as well as Adrian Brody's voice/accent. I think this alone should disqualify the film from being eligible for receiving an Oscar because, in my opinion, this sets a dangerous precedent. I do believe generative AI has the possibility to be used for good, but I'm afraid that more filmmakers and producers will try and substitute man-made art that cannot be replicated or manufactured for a couple of lines of binary code. P.S. Some of these commercials and ads that do use AI look like utter dog shit. I hope I'm not crazy for thinking this way and wanting some form of regulation for generative AI in movies altogether. You are not crazy whatsoever. I am in complete agreement with you. When I heard that The Brutalist used AI in some of the renderings of the architecture that Adrian Brody's character was working on, as well as tweaking their voices to make their accent more accurate to the region. When I heard that, I was like, holy fuck, that is so fucking maddening. Because I loved The Brutalist. It is a long ass fucking movie. 215 minutes, I think. There's a 15-minute intermission baked into the movie. When I went to go see it, I was enthralled. It is a beautiful movie. Adrian Brody does fantastically. I thought it was just like a true masterpiece in like the feat of work that they accomplished there. It was amazing. I loved The Brutalist. I was super bummed when I heard that AI was used, because it's still a great movie, but it did dock quite a few points to me. I still have to update my Letterboxd score, because originally I gave the movie a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and now learning that AI was used in that way, like, it does take away some of the wonder and accomplishment that I initially attributed to, like, the creators of the film. It's still a great movie, don't get me wrong, but I completely agree that, like, awarding this movie and celebrating it does set a really strange and dangerous precedent for the use of AI in movies in this way. And, like, it did make the movie way less cool. The second I found that out, I was like, well, damn. Like, I was so impressed and so enthralled with this film for so many reasons, many of which are still, like, absolutely valid reasons to be enthralled by. The cinematography is incredible. To learn that, like, the performance given by Adrian Brody wasn't, like, 100% him, because they're using AI to manipulate his accent to make it sound more accurate, that detracts a little bit for me. Learning that they're using AI in the renderings of the architecture, when that's like the center of the whole movie, it does take away from all of like the amazement to me, which sucks, because it is a great movie and they did do like a phenomenal amount of work on this, and it is such a feat and such an accomplishment to make a movie of this caliber. Them using AI does take away part of it for me, so maybe I'd give it a 4 now instead of a 4.5, because it's still great. But I totally agree that the precedent that it sets is like really dangerous and just like super disheartening. And I think a lot of movie buffs feel this way. This is like a common sentiment expressed over on Letterboxd, over on Reddit, and all of the movie buff subreddits. This is like the popular opinion, so you're definitely not alone in that. I think that it sucks because this is an example of like a really major monumental movie using it, and I think naturally we're going to see maybe less criticism, or criticism that feels less overwhelming for this one, because it is such a fantastic movie regardless of the AI. But like earlier in the year when Late Night with the Devil came out and it was revealed that they used AI on Late Night with the Devil, which people were pumped about that movie in like, you know, the horror subgenre of movie buffs. People were really stoked on that movie. And then the second it was revealed that they used AI in that movie, people fucking turned, and like the average rating for that movie tanked. It all dropped. All the reviews were about how they used AI. Like the general public opinion shifted immediately. But that was an example of a movie that like was never going to be upheld as like a classic, a great, an Oscar worthy movie. Like we were never going to get that out of that movie. So I feel like we got a reaction that was like overwhelmingly in opposition to the AI that was used. But I fear that with the Brutalist, because it is such like a monumental picture in itself, we're gonna feel like there's less of it. But to be honest with you, I think that the amount of people that are against the use of AI in movies is still like overwhelming. Yeah, it's just super lame and makes everything a little less impressive. It takes away from like the technical greatness and skill of the people that made the movie. And also it just is like fucking stupid. Employ real artists. Why are we using AI to do this shit? It's so stupid. And personally, I would rather listen to Adrian Brody's accent be slightly off, but be a totally genuine performance, than to listen to like an AI version of his accent that's been tweaked to make it more accurate. I would rather just listen to his genuine performance and the way that his voice actually sounds during those parts of the movie, rather than listening to the tweaked version that is maybe incrementally more perfect, that you would be able to clock if you speak that language. I would rather just watch an authentic performance. There's something about the use of AI there that I just don't fucking like. Like, if he couldn't do the accent perfectly, then he can't do the accent perfectly. I want to hear the way that he does it. I don't give a fuck about you being able to tweak it to be sounding undetectable with AI. That's so dumb. I agree completely. In your corner, on board. It's fucking lame. And thank you for reminding me that I need to change my score for the Brutalist on Letterboxd. Hi, Maddie. First of all, love the show and your vibe. You're like the cool older sister my T-boy self needed growing up. Thanks for being here. Second, this question feels a little different than the norm for the show, but I'm in desperate need of some advice from Lovergirls HQ. Last week, I adopted a 2.5-year-old calico kitty who I've decided to name Cookie Dough Moose Tracks. Moose for short. Aw, that's a cute name. Since my best friend pointed out she looks like a pint of ice cream. I grew up with cats, wanted to adopt my own for the last 4 years, and have spent the last month and a half getting my apartment ready and buying all the supplies I'll need. I was so excited in the days leading up to her adoption that I could barely sleep, but now that she's home, I'm terrified. Is this what being a new parent feels like? Moose is the sweetest baby imaginable, and genuinely one of the chillest cats I've ever met. I'm so glad to have her, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm being crushed by anxiety. Will I be able to love her the way that she deserves? What if she isn't happy here? What if something happens to me? What if something happens to her? I guess I want to know if you felt something similar when you brought your little Mango home, and if so, how you dealt with it. So, yes, I did feel that way when I brought Mango home. It was actually like kind of a very emotionally heavy time when I first brought Mango home. And I think that, I don't know, maybe this is something that all like first time solo pet owners experience. But obviously Mango is my first pet. I had pets growing up, but it was more like my parents' pets. Mango is the first living thing that is reliant entirely on me. She is my responsibility. She is my everything. And obviously when I first adopted her, like the week leading up to her adoption, I was so excited because I'm like, oh my God, I have a cat. She's here. I just want her to be here. I want to meet her. I want to get to know her. But then in like the weeks that followed adopting her, I was like an anxious wreck, particularly those like first 2 weeks, because Mango was a very scared cat, a very anxious cat. And when she got home, she hid from me for like the first week and a half. Like she was hiding under my bed, would not come out and see the light of day for days when I first got her. And there's like an emotional learning curve, I think, with cats. Like, she was my first cat that I ever really experienced, other than that cat that walked into my apartment, that stray cat that I had for like a week at the beginning of the pandemic. Mango was my first experience with a cat and like having to earn a cat's trust. And there's a lot of parts on like the journey of getting a cat to open up to you and trust you. It's like high highs and low lows. And when I first got her and she was so scared of me and just like I didn't know how to win her over yet, and I was just like holding on to hope that we would get along and she would eventually trust me. But there was a part in the beginning there where I was so scared that she wasn't going to warm up to me, or that she wasn't going to trust me, and she was just going to be like, I don't know, that she was going to hate me, that it was going to be an uphill battle. And also, I think there was another part of me that was like so aware that there was a scared animal underneath my bed that week, that like my alone time, I was just constantly having a panic attack. And I was like, oh my God, am I ever going to feel like relaxed during my alone time ever again? Am I just going to be constantly panicking about this animal that is hiding under my bed and is scared of me and doesn't like me? Like, I was so scared that Mango and I wouldn't have like our moment together. So I totally understand. There's so much anxiety when you have this like, little living thing that is totally reliant on you. And in the beginning, they don't know you yet. They don't trust you. So you love them so immediately, but they're like, who the hell is this person? They don't really like you yet. And, yeah, I totally get it. There's a lot of like anxiety in that transition. Hoping that they're going to warm up to you, that they're going to like you as much as you like them, and that it's all going to work out and be sweet. Really, I think the like best advice that I can give to anybody on like their journey to bonding with a cat for the first time, adopting a new animal and just like solidifying that connection. I think that when you do solidify that connection, a lot of the other worries sort of go to the wayside. Obviously, I panic about Mango's health all the time. All the time. It's a thought that crosses my brain every single day. When we go to the vet once a year, I pay extra for all the additional tests they can run on her. We had a health scare last year that nearly put me in the fucking grave. I worry about her all the time because she is the most important thing in my life. And yeah, that part doesn't go away. But that you do that with people you love, you do that with animals you love, you worry about them because you want them to stay here forever. You want them to be healthy and happy and content. And sometimes it's hard with animals because they can't tell you if they're in pain. They can't tell you if something's weird or something's going on. So you just have to be on top of it and, do what you can to read their little minds. So that part doesn't go away. But that's a part of loving someone, is you have anxiety about them being well. That's just part of it. That part stays. But the like anxiety about whether or not they're happy or bonding with you, having a connection with each other, just like, solidifying that it's the two of you. You eventually reach a place where it doesn't feel so bad anymore. Mango is shedding over me so bad right now. I'm like feeling like I'm gonna sneeze so bad. I'm like covered in hair right now. But it took Mango so long to warm up to me. Yeah, it took you so long to warm up to me. It took her like a week and a half to stop hiding underneath the bed. And when she first stopped hiding underneath the bed, she would only come out at night when I was sleeping. And she would crawl up to my bed and sort of suss me out. And there was one night in the middle of the night where I was like, I would wake up when she would jump up and suss me out because I was like so thrilled that she was getting that close to me. And I would just sit there with my eyes open, laying as still as possible. And there was one night that I was like, well, let me reach out my arm, letting her sniff my hand, get used to me a little bit. And I was like, let me see if she'll let me pet her. And I went to go pet the top of her head, and she like caved into me. She just like laid down her whole body, purring, letting me pet her stomach. And I cried. I fucking cried. I was like, oh my God, we did it. We've like made some kind of connection. She wants to come cuddle with me up here right now. And then it was like slowly every single day, just bit by bit, she would get more and more comfortable with me. But it was slow with her. Like, you see, she's such a cuddle bug now. We are freaking addicted to each other. But the first like month, it was like a slow ramp up. But she would still, like, when I would walk in the room, she would immediately hide. She was, nervous around me. I want to say for like the first 6 months. And then once we hit like the first year together, that was when she and I were like so good, and we were just bestie city, and we were just constantly cuddling, constantly on top of each other. But then it was like only me that she would do that with. And the second any guest came in the house, she would run and hide. And it took her a long time to warm up to other people. I'm talking years. Like, now Mango has friends of mine that she loves, people that are around her often, and she's just a very social cat in general now. So when new people come around, she'll hang out, she'll go sit on their lap, but she has had to like blossom into this. But I think over time, once she could trust me, and she and I had such like a strong bond together, I think she trusted the like people that I brought around. And yeah, she's just over time become a much more like confident version of her. And now she's just the best girl in the world. I can't think of anything I love more than her. Oh, you are just so cute. You will be able to love your cat the way that they deserve. They will love you back. You just have to be patient with them. Let them take the lead. That was like the thing that I heard the most in all of the cat advice that I sought out when I was getting Mango and experiencing her for the first time, is people that were just like, let your cat take the lead, be gentle, be patient, accept that there's going to be like a period of time where you guys are not besties. It's not going to be an instantaneous thing. It's something that you need to develop like any other relationship. But eventually, over time, you guys will just fall in love, and then you'll be besties forever. Anyways, all of that to say, feeling anxiety about like a new animal and wanting to give them the world and want them to know how loved they are and wanting them to be happy and content is like so normal. And also, I think that as time passes and you create a relationship with this animal and you build trust together, a lot of those worries and fears will melt away. And you'll still worry about their health and wellness, because that's what we do. When we love people, when we love animals, we worry about them. That's okay. But you'll reach more of like a resting place with it all, where you're not constantly in a panicked state about it, but more, just a light worry because you love them. That's it for today's episode. I'm going to throw it on over to the post show on Patreon. I want to go through and revisit some fan fiction that I wrote when I was 15. I couldn't find the written versions of them, but I did find videos that I made in college of me reacting to the fan fiction I wrote when I was 15, which is like a whole second layer of embarrassment. So not only do I have to relive the fan fiction, but I have to relive my cringy college self. So if you're interested in that, that's what we're going to be doing over on the podcast post show on Patreon. Would love to see you over there. It's been warming my heart seeing the group chat start to pop off over on Discord. So if you'd like to join the other lover girls in conversation, be sure to check out the Patreon. If you want to see even more content from me, I post YouTube videos over on @MaddieDrosbeck, and my Instagram is @MaddieDrosbeck as well. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in next week's episode.